The film opens in Numidia, a peaceful land at the edge of the North Africa. Here, Hano leads a quiet and peaceful life, living on a modest farm with his wife Arishat. For Hano, this is paradise. Hano and his wife enjoy a quiet afternoon on the farm. The silence is shattered by the rumbling sounds of war. The ground shakes. The Roman army, led by the general Marcus Acaas, under the orders of Roman Emperor, attack on Numidia. Hano put his armor and help his wife to put her armor and head toward coastal fortress. General tell them the Romans attack on them. As the part of ritual, they are supposed to burn an offering to bring good fortune, but Hano don't believe in God and refuse the general blessing by saying he don't need to make an offering to God that never listened to his prayer. They both laugh. On the other hand, General Marcus Acaas prepares out on the sea, telling his mans to prepare for attack and lower the sails. Before the battle start, Hano says goodbye to his wife and exchange rings and vow to be together forever, and he will fight with the Romans' army while she will support from the back. Romans reach the Numidians' walls, and Numidians fight back with arrows and fireballs, but the Romans defend and launch arrows and keep pressing with their superior number and siege. Hano watched General Acaas lead his army, and the fight broke out, and Acaas fight mercilessly. At that moment, an arrow stuck his men necks that fire by Arishat. Acaas ordered his man to kill that archer, and an arrow shot Arishat's chest and kill her and fall into the sea. Hano, that watching this, got distracted the moment struck by the Roman soldier and falls into the sea. As he lies unconscious, he has a vision his wife is taken by the death. Even thought he tries to get close, he can't. When he calls out to her, she turns and tell him she always love him and hope to see him again. Soon, Hano woke up floating along the shores, the Romans capturing the wounded soldiers. Hano desperately searched for his wife's body and pulled the arrow from her chest and braced her and apologizing for not having protected. Soon the soldier arrived and captured him. Villager from the area in vengeance in the city of Numidia, mourners gathered for their dead, while the Romans burned the bodies, declaring it for the glory of Rome. Hano were captured, marked as slaves, and stripped of his freedom. Their grief turning into silent resolve amidst the ruins on the ship to Rome. Hano mourned his wife, and silence nearby, he spotted Jugurtha General was gravely wounded, and in the following days, his health worsened, leaving him weak and in agony with open wounds, and Hano tried to help him. But the general stopped him, telling him that his case was beyond saving. With a weak voice, he apologized with the loss of Arishat, and recalled how they first met. Hano had been just a young foreign boy from distant lands. From the start, Hano had been disciplined and obedient, following every order over time, and grow in front of him, and Hano became the best warrior in his army. Yet he deeply regretted that fate had led them to this point. While resting, Hano remembered the moment he escaped from Rome. In his memory, he saw him playing with the other children in the village when the Romans suddenly showed up looking for him. Hano ran, and during the months he spent in this new land, an old woman took him in before escaping. Hano begged her to flee with him, but she decided to stay behind tragically. The Romans destroyed the village, wiping out every witness. Hano fled into the desert, chased by Romans for reasons still unknown. Escaping to Numidia, he found safety and grew into the man he is today. When they reach Ostia, Hano tries to wake his commander. They're all taken to a cart, where they will be transported to a Coliseum to be tested. Some will survive. Meanwhile, Acaas returns to Rome, where he's welcomed with full honors. The people cheer for him, and the emperors expressed their gratitude for his achievements. He's conquered one of the most valuable regions of Africa, and as a reward, the emperors salute him and present him with the highest of honors, a laurel crown once there alone. Acaas asked for a few days to rest, saying he misses his wife and wants to spend some time with her. However, the emperors warn him that he can't retire just yet. They have big plans for him. Now they want him to conquer Persia, India, and some western regions. They make it clear that he must follow their orders, or he'll face the harshest punishments. To celebrate his victories and keep themselves entertained, they decide to organize an entire week of games in the Coliseum, where the gladiators' deaths will amuse the crowd. Meanwhile, Hano arrives at the arena in the Coliseum. There are notable merchants, including one important figure named Maximus. Final's opponents are wild baboons. As soon as they're let out of their cage, one of the animals attacks the general, sinking its teeth into his neck, causing him to bleed out. Hano tries to help, but it's too late. His general is already dead. In revenge, Hano attacks the monkeys, using his chains to strike them and strangling them. When one of the baboons fights back, Hano bites its arm, ripping off a chunk of flesh to make the competition. Wilder the guards start shooting darts at the baboon, making them even more crazy in the end. Hano and a few others manage to survive the fight, leaving Maximus impressed. He decides to buy Hano, making him his most valuable asset. Later that night, General Acaas visited his wife, grateful to the gods for his survival. Acaas tells her what happened, and to have some privacy, he asked the servant to leave them. She embraced him warmly, and they shared a quiet moment together. Thank the gods. When they arrive at the camp, Vigo, the gladiator trainer, welcomes them. He explains that they are now the new entertainment force for his master Maximus. Though they're slaves, if they stand out as gladiators, they'll have the chance to buy their freedom. The group begins their training, and Maximus, especially eager to test Hano's skills, the warrior famous for devouring a monkey, decides to put him to the test. Maximus addresses him, telling him that with his strength they could accomplish great feats. However, Hano ignores him, which causes Maximus to order Vigo to strike him. At first, Hano lets himself get hit, but after taking several blows, he defends himself, disarming the trainer with just a few precise strikes just when it looked like he was about to kill him. Maximus steps in, saying he's seen enough and will take Hano. Hano refuses to fight willingly, though he's forced to. Whose head could I give you? Sensing his fury, Maximus offers him the head of anyone he desires. Hano demands the Roman army's General Acaas' head. Maximus accepts the challenge. Next day, Maximus takes him to a party where Hano will be the main attraction. Before this, Maximus talks to a senator. The senator suggests they place a bet to see which of his champions is stronger in front of all the guests. Maximus presents Hano, and when his opponent arrives, Hano says he doesn't want to fight, claiming the spectacle is unnecessary and absurd. They're only indulging the crowd and it's not worth continuing. However, his opponent challenges him, and in the end, Hano kills him, causing the senator to lose his bet. The emperors are impressed, especially Geta, who asks him to say a few words. Hano declares, "The gates of hell are open day and night, and people like you deserve to be there," the emperor. Shocked and offended looks at Maximus, quickly steps in, explaining that Hano is a poet and that his words shouldn't be taken as an insult. With that, they both leave. While Hano is taking a bath, Maximus approaches him and congratulates him on the great show, handing him some coins. He tells him that a slave never gets money, only insults, but a gladiator can earn enough to buy his freedom. Maximus lets him know that with his help, Hano could rise to great power, but warns him not to disobey, or he'll pay for it with his life. Hano refuses to fight willingly, though he's forced to. Whose head could I give you? Sensing his fury, Maximus offers him the head of anyone he desires. Hano asks for only one thing, the head of General Acaas. Maximus tells him that's a tough request, but promises that if he plays his cards right, it can be done. He warns Hano not to fail him, or he'll pay with his life too. That night, Lucilla sought guidance from her late father Marcus Aurelius, and guidance as she proceeds to a secret meeting with the senators. Why he's nervous. Senator Gragas questioned their risky gathering. Acaas revealed their plan on the final day of the festivities. His 5,000 soldiers at Ostia would arrest the emperors for their crimes. Intrigued, Gragas pledged loyalty to Lucilla, advised Lucilla to lead, assuring her that the senators would follow. Meanwhile, Hano and the other slaves are brought to Rome. They make fun of calling him Monkey Eater Leader. As they reached the city's gates, Hano gazes up at the statue of Romulus and Remus, the other slaves. Who don't know the story, ask him to tell it. Hano shares that a long time ago, 2 twin brothers were abandoned. As she will found them and raise them as her own children, they grew up to become great war chiefs. But their hunger for power split them apart, and one of them died in the end. Rome was founded, and the surviving brother became one of the first leaders of the nation. The other slaves are amazed by this story and ask him how he knows so much about Rome if he's from Africa. Hano explains that once a Roman came to his city and was enslaved during the nights Hano cared for him, and this man taught him Roman tales and history. Days later, Senator Thrax and Macrinus talked, and Thrax found himself in even deeper trouble when Macrinus, upset by the delayed payment, suggested double the wager. When they arrive at the Coliseum, Hano is taken to his cell, and not too far from there, he finds the names of all the gladiators who ever earned their freedom, including Maximus. On the first day of the games, the Emperor brothers and senators kick off the ceremony. They asked General Acaas to say a few words of encouragement. He'd rather sit next to his wife, but the emperors won't let him, pointing out that he is not much of a man for speeches with little enthusiasm. Acaas says he hopes they all enjoy these games organized by the beloved twin emperors. The gladiators entered the arena, and Hano spots Lucilla in the crowd. His opponent is a warrior called the Destroyer, who rides a rhinoceros, knowing how to defeat him. He commands his fellow gladiators to stay calm. With excitement in the emperors watched in amusement, the rhino charged, taking down one of the Numidian fighters. Hano, channeling the spirit of the legendary gladiator Maximus, caught Lucilla's attention. Stirring her curiosity, he diverted the rhino into the arena wall, forcing the Roman soldier into combat. Lucilla, intrigued by Hano's skill and presence, began to suspect he might be someone familiar. Though the soldier overpowered Hano, briefly visited the emperor, sought Lucilla's advice, and granted mercy to everyone's shock. Hano rejected the offer, swiftly killed the soldier. Instead, the arena erupted, chanting Hano's name as the emperor's, and the mob were left both surprised and intrigued by the defined gladiator. Other gladiators mourn their fallen comrade, but they praise Hano's victory. Back at her home, Lucilla reads the poem. Hano recited on the wall and realizes he's her son. She remembers the last time she saw him when Maximus died. Even though she loved her son, she sent him away, knowing the situation in the city would get worse. She swore to him that when things got better, she would come back for him. Meanwhile, Hano meets Ravi the doctor, tending to his wounds. Ravi admits he was once a gladiator, but earned his freedom, and now heals others as they talk. Macrinus bursts in. Did you hear that crowd brimming with excitement over his champion Hano, who continues to win and impress at every turn? In the evening, Macrinus visits Lucilla. He watches her actions at the stadium and finds them suspicious. He tells her that he used to be a warrior in his father's service, but now he's nothing more than a merchant. But something about her strikes him as odd. Does Lucilla have a secret or know something important? Macrinus vows to uncover what she's hiding. That night, Macrinus talks to his friend and reveals that Lucilla's late husband was gay, so it's likely that her son Lucio is the result of an affair he also shares, that in her youth, Lucilla was very promiscuous and had many lovers, including Maximus. Putting the pieces together, Macrinus deduces that Lucilla's son was 12 when he disappeared, and now it's been 16 years, so he's an adult by now. It's highly probable that Hano is her son, as he bears a certain physical resemblance and has a remarkable knowledge of Rome. Meanwhile, that night, Lucilla, under house arrest by the emperors for her royal claims to the throne, after her father Marcus Aurelius' death, escapes in disguise. With Senator Gregis' help, she secretly meets her son Lucius. However, Lucius angrily rejects her, furious over being sent away from Rome while she remained in luxury. He blames her new lover, General Acaas, for his wife's death, unaware of the sacrifices Lucilla made to protect him. Lucius chastises her, leaving her heartbroken, returning home. Lucilla finds General Acaas waiting. She reveals that her son Lucius is alive and begs Acaas to protect him, willing to sacrifice herself for Rome. She insists they adjust their plans accordingly. However, all of this is over, heard by a servant who will soon betray them. Hano mocks Vigo, who punishes him by making him row endlessly. That night Robbie finds him, treats his wounds, and Hano tells him his story. A long time ago he was married, but the woman he loved was killed by General Acaas. Robbie in turn shares his story. After leaving the sword behind, he married a very beautiful woman. The next day, the gladiators prepare for their second day of games. Hano tells his comrades they have to be ready with no fear and advises them to follow all his instructions. The theme of the day is to recreate the Battle of Salamis. The opponents fire arrows and some of the gladiators manage to dodge them. Their strategy is to charge at them and then counterattack. Hano sees his chance and uses a crossbow to try and kill General Acaas. But he fails when one of his rivals strikes him before he can shoot. That night, General Acaas leads his team to the arena for the rescue mission, unaware of Senator Thrax's betrayal. Disguised in hooded cloaks, they slip inside. Meanwhile, Lucilla is summoned by the Emperor's "Come with us." Hidden Praetorian guards ambush Acaas' men. Killing them, Acaas is cornered and caught in the act. General Acaas and Lucilla are brought before the emperors, who expressed their disappointment. Despite their chastisement, Acaas laughs, showing no fear and declaring his exhaustion with their cruelty, enraged by his defiance. Emperor Caracalla demands his immediate execution, but Emperor Gaeta intervenes, insisting Acaas be executed publicly for all to see. Emperor Gaeta appraised Macrinus for exposing the traitor, calling him a loyal ally. Macrinus suggested sparing them from crucifixion, proposing instead that the gods decide their fate in the arena. Meanwhile, Hano is being treated for his wounds, and Ravi tells him that Maximus' name has been erased from the wall of the gladiators. Right there is his tomb, along with his armor and sword. Maximus was a warrior who changed the empire in his time. He was a decorated soldier, but after Emperor Marcus Aurelius's death, he was enslaved, his wife and son were killed, and he, a slave, became a gladiator. He fought against the corrupt Emperor Commodus and died as a free man. In honor of the fallen, his armor was kept, and his tomb was inscribed with the words, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." The next day, Acaas is accused of treason and sentenced to the arena. Praetorian guards around the arena, anticipating chaos in the games. Lucilla is moved to a seat, forced to watch as her husband is punished. The master of ceremonies announces General Acaas' trial, where the gods will decide his fate. Acaas centers the arena, facing 4 Praetorian guards for a deadly duel. Acaas quickly defeats his foes, impressing the crowd. Hano faces him next, leaving Lucilla overwhelmed as her son battles her husband. Decide Acaas skilled as easily outmatches Hano, who can't get close. However, Acaas surrenders, claiming respect for Maximus, Hano's father. Despite this, the emperor orders his death. Hano refuses to kill him, and the archers quickly strike Acaas down. Furious, Lucius questions if this is how Rome treats its heroes. The emperor declares the gods have spoken, and while the masses protest, the Praetorian guards hold them back. Macrinus urges the emperors to return to the palace for their safety. Hano then led back to his cell, while the people show their discontent. That night, Macrinus visits Hano in his cell. He mentions that he gave him the reward he'd been begging for, but now he's just wasted his one shot, and assures him that he'll rot in there. But crying is also confesses his ambitions to become the next Roman emperor. Meanwhile, out in the streets, the people are rioting, and the emperors are bickering, unable to come up with a solution to calm the crisis. During the heated discussion, Gaeta insults his brother Caracalla, calling him weak, and that sends Caracalla storming off to his room. There Macrinus approaches him and manipulates him, reminding him that Gaeta despises him and considers him inferior. Caracalla admits that Gaeta always had their parent attention and confesses a dark memory from his birth. He tried to strangle him with his own umbilical cord, he believes, of his twisted, get his mind making him responsible for all of his misfortune. Now Caracalla decides he has to prove his worth and end Gaeta's life. Because if he doesn't, Gaeta is going to kill his little monkey Dundas. taking advantage of the chaos in the city. Caracalla ambushes Geta, who tries to stop him. With Macrinus helps Caracalla decapitates his brother. Not long after, Lucilla will also be executed, but she uses the brief time she has left to speak with Hano. He offers his condolences for Acaas's death, calling him a good man. They make peace, and Hano admits that he too lost a wife, and the pain was devastating. Now that he's found his mother, he promises to do whatever it takes to protect. Lucilla gives Hanos his father ring. In the Senate convenes, Caracalla announces the death of his brother. He names his monkey Dondus as the first consul of the Senate, and Macrinus as the second consul as he leaves. Macrinus makes it clear that he's the one in control of the empire now, as a show of power. He presents Geta's head to the senators, proclaiming that the empire has fallen and is now in the hands of a madman. With that, Macrinus asked the senators who they'll serve when the time comes. Terrified, the senators pledged their loyalty to him. Macrinus meets Lucilla and reminds her of her father's dream for Rome, which he believes will never come true. He plans his revenge on Marcus Aurelius's daughter for what was done to him, once a slave with a mark on his chest. Macrinus now controls the empire. He will stop at nothing to eliminate Lucilla and claim the throne. In the dungeon, Hano calls Ravi and gives him a ring to deliver to General Darius Sixtus in Ostia. The ring Acaas marks Lucius as the true heir of Rome. He declares himself Lucius Verus, the Prince of Rome, calling for the army support. Shocked, Ravi agrees and leaves the dungeon keys with him. As the Coliseum is being prepared for the games, Ravi rides to Ostia. He gives the ring to General Darius Sixtus. After explaining everything, the army then begins marching toward the city. As Lucilla in the stadium, senators prepare for the games. Emperor Caracalla arrives at the arena unsure about killing Lucilla. Heaven-obese Macrinus urges him to do it for peace, but he knows it will stir the crowd politics. Vigo attempts to taunt Lucius by handing him a wooden sword to defend his mother. However, Hano and the other gladiators fight back, killing Vigo and the Praetorian guards. Hano then worn his father Maximus's armor and wield his sword. In the arena, the master of ceremonies introduces the games for Emperor Caracalla. His councils and traitors Lucilla and the senators who must face justice, except one gladiator, will fight for them, a role's odors. Meanwhile, Lucius encourages the gladiators to rise up for their freedom and a new Rome. He promises to restore honor, rallying them with his sword, calling for strength and courage in their fight in the arena. As planned, Lucius was chosen to fight for his mother Hano. The Praetorian Guard surrounded him. The setup eerily similar to the one that led to his father Maximus's death. But Lucius had a plan. With his sword raised, he commanded the gladiators, and they reached into the arena, sparking chaos. Lucius fights bravely for his mother, with the gladiators by his side. The crowd rises, attacking their oppressors, just when Lucilius is about to save his mother. Macrinus, using a bow and an arrow, ends her life. Lucilla dies in her son's arms and devastated. Lucilius rushes after her killer. Macrinus flees but prepares himself, knowing that Acaas's soldiers are closed. However, he trusts his army of 6,000 Praetorian warriors. When he reaches the city gates occasions, his soldiers are waiting for him. Lucio finds him and tells him he's going to make him pay for all the harm he's caused. Macrinus, however, claims his actions are justified, that he was chosen and the gods wanted him to commit such crimes. Lucius doesn't care about any of that. He just wants his life to end. They fight, and Macrinus uses the surroundings to try to harm Lucio. At one point, he tries to stab him, but Maximus's armor protects him. In a counterattack, Lucio cuts off his hand and then slits his throat. Macrinus's lifeless body floats in the water as both sides watch what's happening. Lucius walks toward both groups, announcing that the conflict is over and that today he will fulfill his grandfather's dream, Marcus Aurelius. He is the son of Maximus and Lucilla, and he hopes that with their help, they'll build a better government. It's time to act. Both groups agree to follow him, and Lucio becomes the new emperor of Rome. In the final moments, Lucio returns to the arena and approaches the chariot where his mother passed away. He asked for her forgiveness, bends down and takes a handful of sand from the arena floor. With a prayer, he asked his father to give him strength. In that moment in the afterlife, we see Maximus is hand-assigned, that despite all the hardships, he never abandoned his son and was always by his side. Thanks for watching. We will come back with another amazing story.